welcome to the book launch celebration for Four-Legged Farm Hand, a Farm Dog USA Tale, and How to Train Your Best Friend, 20 Things Every Owner Should Do to Raise a Dog Right. My name is Thea Rodemaker, and my company, Flint Publishing, is so honored to work with these amazing women, author Jackie Allenbrand and Reyna Bradford. And as you'll see tonight, these women have had a long connection. You'll be learning more about how these two became fast friends. And it was a happy coincidence that both of their books were ready to be published at the same time. Tonight, we gather from many different locations across our country. I'm sure a lot of you are cuddled up with some dogs around you, and some of you have gathered together. We want to say a special hello and thank you to the students, teachers, and parents at King City Elementary in King City, Missouri, and a special thank you to their teacher, Corey Nickel, for organizing this school's event. I just think that's terrific what you all are doing. A few housekeeping things. This is a webinar, so audience members don't see each other and we can't see you. If you have a technical issue or question, you can send us a message in the chat, which you should see there on your screen. We are going to take written questions for a Q&A at the end, at the conclusion of the program, but if a question comes to mind during the program, go ahead and write it in and we'll get to it. The webinar is being recorded and you are going to receive an email with a link to that recording tomorrow, and we would sure love it if you shared that with your friends. Well, hello, Jackie. Hello, Reyna. How are you both doing? Congratulations. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, Jackie, I'm going to start with you. Congratulations on the publication of your first book. I have so enjoyed working with you and getting to know you. I know you have a lot of people here tonight who do know you, but tell us about yourself and tell us about this organization that you started.
Thank you, first off, to you and Flint Hills Publishing. I appreciate your help in getting this publication all done, and thanks for all you folks that did tune in tonight. And I know you had other choices, but thanks for being here. And go Wildcats! Thanks for tuning in. And I say that to the Wildcats, kind of special to me, because that's where I spent my youth, was at that elementary school. And that's where I found my love for reading and for books. And so I don't like to talk about myself, but that's part of this. So grew up there and graduated from Albany High School, then went on to Northwest Missouri State University and received a couple of degrees there in education. Taught school for a while and helped with basketball programming. But then my immune system and my doctor said I needed to find a new profession. So anyway, went on into the world of extension and worked with 4-H programming, got to work with youth still that way. And then had an opportunity to go into a full-time extension position with the Agribility program. And they work with farmers with disabilities as well. And met a lot of people across the United States. I really enjoyed that opportunity to meet so many people and so many different farmers and staff people, and had a good experience with that. And that's where I first started thinking about the Farm Dog program. Also can't forget to mention that I'm married and that we own a farm in Gentry County in Northwest Missouri. And Chris and I raise cattle. We have cow-calf pairs and some hay ground. And we have always used dogs to help us out on the farm. They help us sort our livestock and watch the gates and are just good to have around. Would you like to have an explanation of Farm Dog, or do you want to wait for that till later? I'd be glad to describe it now.
Tell us about Farm Dog.
Well, Farm Dog is spelled a little different. Some of you might have noticed. It's spelled P.H.A.R.M. And that stands for Pets Helping Agriculture in Rural Missouri. And in 2012, we registered the name, but we added USA to our title, Farm Dog USA, so that people would know we place dogs in other places other than Missouri. And what we do is we train four-legged farm hands to assist farmers that might be dealing with an injury, an illness, or some sort of disability and need some extra help. So we train border collies to help them with their livestock needs. and we use rescues from shelters or rescue groups. We use Labradors or lab mixes, and we train them with service skills. For instance, retrieving tools, carrying buckets, helping with mobility, and we even trained a dog to open gates at one time. So that's just a little bit about what we do.
Thank you, Jackie. Okay, Reyna, it's your turn. This is the second book you and I have published together, so we've spent a lot of time working together. And let me just say, like Jackie, you are also an inspiration to me. One of the things that many people may not even realize yet is that you do all you do without the benefit of eyesight. So I'd like you to talk about that a little bit and tell us, about you, who Reyna Bradford is.
All right, I am Reyna. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming tonight. And I am also a farm girl. I have a 6-acre hobby farm, and I raise registered dairy goats. That's one thing that I do. The other side of what I do is I'm also a definite dog person, and I participate with quite a few different breeds of my dogs and quite a few different doggy sports. Those are sort of my 2 claims to fame. And I do all of it without vision. I do live by myself. I do not have, a live-in helper or anybody that I hire to help me run this place. And I always get asked, how much can I see? So just kind of to quickly clear that up, I can see light and dark. I can see shadows, blurry contrasts, but I cannot see faces. I cannot distinguish colors. I can't see where I'm going in a crowded room. So life can be a bit of an adventure. Just to fill in a few details, like I said, I do raise registered Nubians. Those are the dairy goat breed specifically that I have. And what that means is that I bottle feed the kids. So in the spring, when the babies are born around March, maybe April, the way that we do it on a dairy farm for several reasons is we take the babies away from the moms and we raise them on a bottle and feed them, several times a day. And I usually raise between roughly about 10 kids every spring and summer. And then I also, of course, milk the moms. Usually I do 7 or 8 does that we call the girl goats does. And I milked 8 this year. So I'm out there twice a day for most of the year. We're just getting to the point now in the year where I'm starting to milk fewer goats less often, and I will probably dry them off here sometime in December. So that's a lot of milk, and I've learned not only to use it, for just table consumption, but I've also learned to make stuff out of it. So I make cheese, I make yogurt. My mom has gotten into making some of the soap and lotion, and I, give her the milk, and she tag teams with me on that, and makes the rest of it. And ice cream, you can make really good ice cream out of goat's milk. So there's a lot of fun and a lot of work in the goats, but more specific, I think, to what we're talking about tonight, is that I train a lot of my dogs in a lot of different sports and to help me on the farm as well. I currently live with 10 dogs, and yes, most of them are in the house, for those of you who are wondering. The competitive sports that I specifically am trying to title in right now are competition obedience, tracking, tricks, and barn hunt. And then I also have a couple of dogs that I use for the livestock, kind of like Jackie was talking about. I also have herding dogs that I can shout to if shockingly the goats are being bad and going somewhere they're not supposed to go, or getting out of the pasture or whatever. I can holler for Jem and Tassie, and they will come and round up the goats and bring them back to me. So dogs really make my life possible. It's really no exaggeration to say that if it weren't for my dogs, I really could not live the life, especially without vision, that I'm living, and the life that I love to live. They give me exercise during the day. They give me peace of mind during the night. they help with all kinds of odds and ends throughout an average day. And my dogs are really the reason I'm here tonight on several different levels. I could really not be here were it not for the ways that they've helped me over the years. They've taught me a lot. And so it's great to be here this evening, and I'm looking forward to sharing more of our story with you guys in the next few minutes. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Reyna. Jackie, through Farm Dog, you have met so many people and worked with different organizations across the country, and several have helped to promote this event, and we want to give them a special thank you. Thank you to Samuel Goldberg and his team for your support. The movie Silo is the first ever feature film about the all too common danger of grain entrapment. This compelling film highlights the dangers farmers face and the power they often tap into of working together as a community. You can watch Silo on Amazon, Hulu, and more. Keynote speaker, Oscar-winning broadcaster, farmer, and rancher Andrew McCrae has been a longtime supporter of Farm Dog. His popular radio feature, American Countryside, is heard on a national network of radio affiliates, as well as rural radio Sirius XM. Thank you to Carl Blake, whose passion for innovation in the pork industry is well known and admired. Your support of Farm Dog's mission is much appreciated. A huge thank you to AgriAbility, a national organization with many state chapters. Their vision is to enhance quality of life for farmers, ranchers, and other agricultural workers with disabilities. And finally, I want to thank Lynn Murphy, who's providing much appreciated technical support tonight. Lynn is the founder of Women Who Push the Limits and has published 2 books with Flint Hills Publishing. Jackie, you have just inspired me so much with all the connections that you have made and all the passion that you have brought to your project, and to see all the things you've done has really inspired me. I want to start with a question. The first question is, how did the 2 of you connect with each other?
Well, I will go ahead and jump in and start us off on that, because I was the first one lucky enough to hear about Jackie originally and her awesome program. And I kind of initiated contact with her first, and then she was gracious enough to reciprocate and come on board with my project. But I heard about Farm Dog years ago now. I don't even know. It's been probably 6 or 7 years ago. Thanks to an article in Family Dog magazine. It's a publication put out by the American Kennel Club. It's a really cool magazine, just featuring some neat, tips and tricks and training articles about all the kinds of things that dogs can do in a home setting. And they had a big feature on Farm Dog, and I was blown away. I was just captivated. I had never heard of anything like this before. And of course, I was already living with my dogs on the land, like I just bragged on them. They kind of make my life worth living and possible. So I had no idea that there was a program like this. And over just right, I'm in Kansas, so this was just neighboring Missouri. And I was like, this is awesome. I've got to get involved here. So I initially just sent her, some support checks and just financially supported the program. And that went on for a few years. And then we exchanged some correspondence a little bit back and forth. And, I would check in with her and say, I love what you're doing. And she'd say, well, thank you for what you're doing. And then when I wrote my first book, In My Hands, I featured, life on the land with working dogs. And we were promoting the book. Thea was urging me to look through how many, who can I promote it to, and who could we invite to the first book launch for that memoir of mine. And I went through my email contacts, and lo and behold, there was Jackie. And I thought, I'm going to ask if she wants to come to this book launch. And so she did. She was an attendee for that In My Hands book launch that we did a year ago now. And then she was kind enough to say she liked my book. And then I was like, well, how would you feel about writing the foreword to this book, How to Train Your Best Friend? Because I so support what she does, and it's, very similar to what I'm doing on a small scale, personal, my own personal life. So that's my side of the story. And it's so cool that we can launch books now here at the same time and have sort of supported each other's projects. It's really great. Thank you, Jackie.
Well, thank you. My face is probably turning red from all those kind words and compliments. I really appreciate that. And, you know, it was exactly like Reyna said. I was getting cards and some financial support for Farm Dog from Reyna. And we exchanged cards back and forth and talked about what she does on her farm, which is amazing to me. And then there was, at one time, she said, I'm probably not going to write for a while because I'm really going to focus on writing a book. And so, you know, that's great. That's great. I really appreciate your past support and best wishes on that. And then I believe it was just last year, I thought I got a contact from Thea and she told me about Reyna's book and I thought, oh, she did it. She said she was going to stop and write a book and she did. And it was a good book and I did enjoy it. And if it wouldn't have been for Reyna and her contacts, I would not have met Thea and this would not be happening right now. So I appreciate Reyna for that. And I'm amazed by the work she does. Like she said, she is doing a lot herself personally of what we try to help other farmers do. So I told her once, I believe, I made a comment somewhere that I truly love Reyna's moxie. She gets out and she goes, and I'm glad to know a person like you, Reyna.
Well, I think it's just wonderful, the connections that you two have. And one of the deepest connections, obviously, is your love of dogs. So I think it's only fair that we give some of the dogs that have come in your lives some screen time.
Having a teaching session here in Sedalia. Bob and Zip were our last placement. We still like to continue going over commands and reviewing. If there's a chance, we'll do it. It's a learning phase.
Hip, 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 hip. Get him, dude. Get him. Hip, hip.
You got it. Where's your glove? You get it? Go get it. There you go. Pick it up. Get it. There you go. Good for you.
This is Cinder. Cinder's going to demonstrate a little bit more of a long recall, hopefully a full distance recall across the ring here. I would like to say another thing I talk about in How to Train Your Best Friend is that I've found as a person without sight that I need to keep track of my pack of rats. And one way to do that is by using bells. And I talk about that in the book. Even for sighted people, it can be really handy, especially with a new puppy that's all over the place. Cinder. To have a bell on that little mischievous little bundle of energy. So it's just something to think about. These dogs, my dogs, when they work, they wear this specific bell, and every one of them knows that when they hear that bell caller come out, it's time to go to work and they're going to get some really good food. So come on, Cinder, let's get with it here, buddy, please. Good boy. All right, we're going to try it. I know. We're going to do a recall across the and sit. I know. And Cinder loves recalls, so ready? Wait. Biggest issue with him is getting him to wait for it. Cinder, sit. Recess. Good boy. Get my slippers. Get it. Get it. Bring it up here. That's a good girl. That's one. Where's the other one? Can you get the other one? Oh, get it. Get it. Good. Bring it up here. That girl. Come on, sweetie. Good job. Yay. Good girl. This one? Good. Good girl. Can you get Kleenex? Go get Kleenex. Go get it. Bring it over here. Out. You know, I think that dog toy looked kind of ratty. I think maybe she needs a new toy. But we need some money to go get a new toy. Do you want to go get my money for me? Can you get my wallet? Where's my wallet? Go get it. Go get the wallet. Come on, Jessie. What you got? What a good girl. That's a good dog. All right. Now don't spend it all in one place, okay?
Jackie, I want to ask you a question about your book. As you mentioned, it's a children's book. What was the inspiration for this story, and what is your vision for what you want to do with this book?
Well, the inspiration for this particular story focused on the herding side of our program and focused on a dog we had named Buddy. And he was the inspiration for this. But of course, what inspires me daily and what I'm passionate about is the farmers that we work with that are dealing with an illness or an injury, disability, and how those dogs can help them to stay active and independent on their farms. So we hope to get the word out in a different audience, maybe with a children's book. And so that's why went that direction and went with the children's book about Buddy and what he did. And I know when we talked a few days ago, there was some interest in maybe sharing some stories about some of the dogs that we've placed. And with Buddy, in this story, four-legged farmhand, he was really a real dog. And he was what we call a runner, I guess you could say. A lady had found him in South Missouri, and she didn't know who he belonged to, tried to find the owner, couldn't find the owner. She said, he watches my hands all the time. I think he's wanting me to do something, but I don't know what it is. She ended up giving Buddy to another farmer. A thunderstorm happened and the dog ran off from that farmer, and they ended up finding him again. And she called me and she said, I read about your program. I think he already knows some things. Would you be interested in taking Buddy? And so one of our trainers, Bobby Miller, he helped us a few years back. He took Buddy in, and Buddy ran off from his farm. So that's why I say he was a runner. And I said, well, why don't you bring him up to our place, and we will see what happens with us and what we can do. And Buddy stayed at our place and didn't run off. And he was very helpful to my husband, who has hearing loss, and he would watch the gates. And so when there was livestock coming through, he'd give that warning, so my husband would know something's coming. And it's kind of a safety feature that Buddy had to warn him. And so he was a good dog, a helpful dog. And we've got, another story or two that I could share if you're interested in about other dogs being placed with farmers. I can do a real quick one to share of why this program inspires me, because it's the farmers and, like I said, the trained dogs that help them do what they want to do. Just give you another quick story about a dog named Duke. And you saw him actually in a video there. He was helping a farmer. The farmer was in the wheelchair and he was driving his cattle. And Duke was a dog that showed up in St. Joseph, Missouri, with a family, the Owens family in St. Joe, Missouri. They were out on a family walk, and this border collie came out of nowhere, and he followed them home. And they said, we can't keep him. We live in the city. We have a dog. So they knew what I did here. And so Duke came to us. And Duke went to Don McKay in Iowa, one of our trainers, and he was trained to help with a large cattle operation. And so Don and Duke drove 8 hours out to the farm, because when we place dogs, we try to go to the farm so farmers can learn the commands and feel comfortable with things. And after that 8 hours, we got to the farm. There were several farmhands, probably 7 or 8 farmhands standing around. The farmer that was going to receive the dog, the trainer, Don, myself, and my husband. And we were talking there briefly when we first got there. And Don, the trainer, said, well, it's about time you meet your dog, don't you think? And the farmer said, yeah, I can hardly wait to meet him. And this was interesting because the farmer that was receiving the dog and Duke had never met before. And so Don, the trainer, went to the trailer. He let Duke out. And I thought, oh, he'll stick with the trainer because he knows Don, he'll stick with him. But what happened was he let Duke out of the trailer, and Duke wove his way around all the hens and the trainer and he stopped right in front of the farmer's wheelchair. Mm. And so sometimes dogs know where they belong and where they should be. And he was a lost little dog, but he found his home. And I always try to be professional when I place dogs, but I must admit I had to turn away for a few minutes because that's just a story that touches your heart a little bit. So that's why we do the work that we do. Farmers are an independent bunch, can sometimes be a stubborn bunch, but good people, and that get up every day and plant their crops and harvest their crops and work with their livestock and provide for all of us. So we have food every day and clothing to wear. And so we're thankful for them and I admire the work that they do. And so this book, we hope will reach another audience, and we hope to earn some proceeds so that we can help our program, the Farm Dog program, to continue and to hopefully someday have a training center Our training gets slowed down a little bit in winter, and so a training center is a goal for us someday. And I really am passionate about this, and hopefully this will reach many people, and be glad to visit with anyone that has interest in it.
Well, in fact, Jackie, just to be clear, you're going to take all the proceeds, all the royalties from this book and give it back to Farm Dog, correct?
Yes, we are going to give that back to the Farm Dog program so that can continue to move forward. We're a very small group. We're farmers ourselves, ranchers, just trying to help other folks that do the same thing we do. And nonprofits have been hit hard this past 2 years with COVID. Donations and things like that are not given as much. So I will be honest and tell you, I'll take a little bit out for expenses and different things, but majority of this money will go to the program.
Mhm. I think that's a great intention. Reyna, tell us about How to Train Your Best Friend. What is the purpose of this book, and how is it different from writing your first book, as you mentioned, the memoir In My Hands?
Yeah, it was very different. You know, In My Hands was a true memoir. It was written out of my personal adventures and my personal experiences, my personal dogs. I share a lot of their stories in that book. And I also wanted to give people, readers of that first book, a peek into the life of a dairy farm and how dependent it is on the seasons. We start with autumn, we work through winter, spring, and then to summer. So the book does span an entire 4 seasons in a year. But I had so much dog stuff in that book, and I've had working dogs and I've done competition and everything. And by the time I finished that book, Thea was like, you should really write a dog training book. And I was like, no. I was like, I don't train people, I train dogs. And even then, sometimes I wonder, it depends on the day, but she was insistent. And she said, you don't have to be an expert. You just have to share your working life knowledge. And then the COVID thing happened, and all of a sudden everybody was getting new dogs. It was kind of the thing that people were doing as they were staying at home. And so one thing and another, I thought, well, we've talked about it. It's a shorter book. It's kind of a small book. And I wanted to make it very accessible, very reader friendly. There's a lot of dog training books. There is a huge amount of dog training books out there, more every day, really. And so I thought, well, how can I compete with such a saturated market? And I'm approaching this book very practically and from a very unique perspective of being someone who's blind, working with a lot of different breeds and a lot of different sports, and doing it without help, So I broke it down. We agreed that it should be kind of a top 20 type of book. And so I broke it down into very basic things that I do to raise my own dogs. And they're to me, they're pretty basic. They're give the dog enough exercise, and how important socialization is, and handling and grooming, and some, basic how to bring people to your house. But it's stuff that, it's not necessarily scientific. It's not trendy. It's stuff that I've found that works. So that was my emphasis in this book, was very practical, unique perspective, what actually works with dogs.
And at the very end, you have some of your top secret recipes, because for years you've told me about salmon brownies, and I'm like, what is that? And you've included that recipe in the back of the book.
Yeah, we have, I think there's like 6 or 7 recipes in the back, and salmon brownies is at the top of the list. We have tuna fudge, we have P.H.A.R.M brownies. Of course, everybody knows dogs can't have chocolate, and they love chocolate, but they can't have it. So we do P.H.A.R.M instead, and they like P.H.A.R.M. It's a good substitute. And then there's a few other peanut butter bone type of recipes, and I think there's a birthday cake in there too. So.
Well, Reyna, you have kindly agreed to read an excerpt from How to Train Your Best Friend. So would you like to do that?
Yeah, let's kind of scooch the camera around and let me get my braille. One thing that's always unique for people is that I do read in Braille. Now I love audiobooks too. And as much running around as I do on my farm in an average day, I don't usually have time to sit down and read Braille. So I love audiobooks, but when it comes to actually working through a book, and especially one, that I've written, I like to have it in Braille. So this is, Braille is really cool to look at. So we always like to, people are interested in, seeing me actually read it. Just a little bit quick about Braille. It's the blind person's alphabet. So we use a lot of abbreviations, but it's, A through Z. Each individual letter is in its own individual cell, is what they call it. So each Braille cell has 6 dots, and each of those cells then is configured differently. So you can make the 6 dots into an amazing variety of patterns. And I've just got a page or so here out of my introduction to How to Train Your Best Friend, which I will read to you so that you can kind of see how it works and get a flavor for this book. All right. Talking about my farm and how the dogs help me, handling all of this without sight has given me a unique perspective on dog ownership and dog training. There is certainly no shortage of material available to anyone who wants to learn about raising a puppy, adopting a rescue, or training a dog for any kind of work or competition sport. Dogs are popular, especially these days, as more people stay at home with additional flexibility in their schedules. The pandemic puppy has become a global phenomenon. Everyone is scrolling the internet, swiping their smartphones, and leafing through books to find just exactly how to raise their new dogs right. I don't pretend to have any inside knowledge or particular wisdom when it comes to doing dogs the right way. In fact, dogs are so popular that their proper care and appropriate training can often become highly controversial flashpoint issues. I do not have all the answers. I don't know all the latest scientific research or the most touted training trends. What I do have is practical knowledge and life experience. What I do know is how to be a competent leader to a group of dogs, even while lacking the significance of sight. It's not easy wrangling a household of 9 or 10 dogs, even when you can see what you're doing, never mind what they're doing at any given time. But I have managed, and I've managed while still continuing to enjoy them and succeeding with many of them in the ring and on the farm. My own positive, no-nonsense, effective approach is what I attempt to share in this book. It is not the only way to raise a dog right, and it may not even be the best way, but it does work. My hope is that it will work for you and for your best friend.
Reyna, thank you so much. That always amazes me to watch you do that. It's terrific. Thank you. Jackie, we're going to turn to you. A very important part of a children's book is the illustrations, and you have been blessed with some very beautiful ones. And we are very fortunate that your illustrator, Ann Hogue, is with us tonight.
Yes, we're so glad that she is here, and I have admired this lady and her talents for several years. I don't want to make her gush and get all red, but it's the truth. She is a very talented person, and when I thought about writing a book, I just decided that I would go for it and ask Ann if she would help me out, and she did, which I appreciate very much so. Had a few questions for Ann, which others might be interested in how she comes about deciding how she does illustrations in a book. And so, Ann, could you tell us at what age did you first have interest in painting and drawing?
Well, my siblings all have always made fun of me because they say there was no way that I can remember things as at an early age that I claim to, but I truly do remember when I was about 3 or 4 years old. I loved horses, I've always loved horses, and I drew a picture of a horse and I colored it blue, and I remember running in to show my family what I had done, and was so excited about it, and they all bragged and said, it's pretty, but it's blue, horses aren't blue. And I said, oh, I know, but isn't it beautiful? And so that is the earliest memory I have of loving to draw and art, and it just has continued throughout my life. It's just something I have a passion for.
Yes, well, we know that you have illustrated some other books. And how many books would you say you've illustrated so far?
I'd say close to around 15 books so far.
Okay. And she's done some here locally, as well as how far out would you say that are there people out of state as well that you've illustrated?
Yes, the first book actually that I did was for Thomas Nelson Publishing, and that just happened quite by accident. A local author had asked me to draw some sketches for a book that she had done, and I did, and she sent it to different publishers, and time had gone by, and one day I got a phone call from a publisher from Thomas Nelson, and I thought it was a prank call that's one of my friends had, and I almost hung up on her because I just didn't think it was real, but it was, and that was the very first experience I had illustrating a book. So that one has been around the world.
Yeah. Well, what made you decide to help me with this project?
Well, I was familiar with your program locally and thought what a great program it was. And then when you approached me about doing illustrations, I thought that's a great way to help you out with your program. And I was really excited to do that.
Well, I'm so glad that you did. Much appreciated. And what did you decide on what type of art style you would use for the illustrations of this book? How did you decide what style?
Well, first I read your book after you gave me the script and talked to you about what approach you wanted to have, what age level your audience was. And if I remember correctly, I gave you a couple of different examples of some previous books that I'd done, more of a realistic style or more of the cartoon for the younger audience. And you preferred the more realistic style, so that's what we went with.
Yes, and here in a little bit, I'll share some of those drawings with you. I want to know what gets you inspired. How do you get inspired in the placement of pictures in this book or in general? How do you get inspired?
Well, once the publisher breaks down the pages for me and lets me know, and a lot of times they have suggestions about what they would like for illustrations and placement. But a lot of times I just go with what I think would work best too. And I like to alternate top and bottom so that you don't have the illustrations on the same page and move them around a little bit. But sometimes that doesn't always work out. It just depends on the copy on that page and what's happening with the story.
What type of artwork would you say that you enjoy the most when doing some of these pictures I'm going to show?
For book illustrations,
Yes.
I would say the ones that have, for this particular book, we'll just use it as an example. I love to show the emotions of the dog. We've always had dogs, and their personalities, how they tilt their heads or they look like they're embarrassed or they know they've done something wrong, and those puppy dog eyes. And so showing those expressions are what I really enjoy doing and try to portray that throughout the story.
And did you say that these drawings, is that watercolor that you use?
I start out with a pencil sketch. I do rough sketches first, just on practice paper, and then when I decide what pose or illustration I want to do, then I draw them out with pencil lightly and then go over them with the pen and ink and then fill them in with watercolor.
And I'll just show one more here. And this was actually done from a real life picture of Buddy that she took from that and finished that out. So one thing that I think is important for us to talk about tonight is that you taught in the public school system.
Yes,
and you taught art in the school system. And we have several children and younger folks watching. So what would you say to them to encourage young artists? What advice, I guess?
Well, pursue your passion, no matter what, if it's art, music, whatever it is. It's like anything you do in sports or whatever your passion is. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And so practice. And especially in the arts, don't be afraid that you're doing something wrong, because art is an expression of yourself. And if it feels right to you, whatever you're doing, it's right. Don't always listen to criticism from other people. Sometimes it can be positive, but sometimes it can be negative and it can shut you down a little bit. And so don't let that happen. You know, like my blue horse, I loved it. Even though my family thought it was kind of strange that I colored it blue, I loved it. And I still remember that as my first piece of artwork. And so, because that was me, I wanted a blue horse. And so I made it blue. And so don't ever let anybody tell you that it doesn't look right. If it's perfect for you, then it's perfect for them too.
And I have one last question, and that is for you to tell us. I know that you do other things other than just drawing and painting. She's very creative and has made animals out of gourds and works a lot with clay and different textures and things. Has her own little art studio at her home. And if anybody was ever interested in seeing some of your artwork, I know now you tell me about was it the national organization where you drew the ducks and the?
Oh, that was for the Missouri Wildlife Waterfowl stamp program.
Right.
And I entered that for several years and got runner up like 7 times, but never won. And so I did that for quite a while. And then Missouri quit doing the stamp program. Yeah.
Right. And where I was going with this is she does do a variety of things. And if anybody had interest in seeing what it is you do you have a Facebook page or a website or something they could look at that?
I don't have a website, but I do have a Facebook page that I have my artwork on. So you can find it there or contact me and I can send it to you through Facebook.
Well, thank you for being here with me this evening and thank you for illustrating my book.
Well,
I appreciate
thank you for the opportunity. I enjoy helping out.
So thank you.
And thank you so much. Jackie really hit a home run when you agreed to do the beautiful illustration.
Working with you.
Oh no, they're amazing. They are absolutely gorgeous. Well, tonight is a celebration about books, but it's also a celebration about dogs. And we thought what better way to celebrate our dogs than with a top 10 photo contest. So for those of you who submitted, thank you so much. And here's a little photo montage of your furry friends. Okay, I'm going to tell the truth. We could not just pick one dog. I was afraid that we might hurt some human feelings. So we are going to have a little drawing. All right. So all the names of the dogs are in here and I will randomly draw them. And what are the fabulous prizes? Thank you, Jackie, for donating this awesome coffee tumbler that has the Farm Dog logo on it. And then people are also going to receive a copy of In My Hands, Reyna's book. And we have 4 prizes. The second option is you'll get either a hat and a book. So we have 2 sets of each of those. So let's see, our first winner. Oh, and then if your dog's name is called, put your mailing address in the chat, or you can send me your address at my email, thea@flinthillspublishing.com. All right, the first winner is, Arlene, which I thought was the best name for that very tough looking dog. So Arlene's owners, send me your email and you'll get this mug and book. Okay, the next prize, a very cool farm dog hat and Reyna's book In My Hands. Okay, and the winner is Deuce. So Deuce's Humans, send us your mailing address and we'll get that in the mail to you. Okay, another tumbler and book. The winner is, okay, I have to tell you, this was my husband's favorite picture, Oz and Fuller. So Oz and Fuller's family, send us your mailing address. Okay, and now for a hat and a book. Aries, what a great out of this world name for a dog. So Aries people, send us your mailing address, either put it in the chat or again at my email, thea@flinthillspublishing.com. Jackie and Reyna, you are both such inspiring women. And I'm going to ask the typical publisher question. Jackie, I'm going to start with you. What is the next book project that you're working on?
Well, I'm going to try to round up some more creativity and see if I could do another children's book, hopefully to focus on the other side of our program, which is using rescue labs and lab mixes and training them with service skills. So I hope to accomplish that at some point in time, and we'll see where that goes.
Okay, be real nice to Anne.
I've been buying her some gifts already.
Excellent. Good plan. Good plan. Okay. Reyna, I know that you are always writing. You also write a fantastic blog, which people can find on your website, reynawrites.com. And I would encourage everyone to follow your blog. You have over 50 posts that you've done. And it's wonderful. But what's the next book project that you're working on?
Well, it's still really in the early stages. These characters are just starting to talk to me, if you will, and tell me who they are. But I'm going to switch gears a little bit and maybe write more for a young adult type of audience. And, everybody is fascinated by World War II. There's so many amazing stories, both fictional and nonfiction, that come out of that period of our history. But I'm thinking of taking a unique spin on this. In about 1940, when the air raids, the Blitz was happening on London, there were more than 3.5 million children who were evacuated from the city. They were shipped out by train to the rural countryside, the thinking being that, it was safer. I mean, the countryside wasn't getting pounded by bombs every night for hours and hours like London was. And so a lot of parents just made that sacrifice and sent their kids out of town for a few months. Well, what would it be like if one of those little girls, maybe about 10, was blind? She would have her world completely turned upside down. And I'm thinking she would probably be kind of a spoiled, maybe an only child, very overprotected and sheltered. And all of a sudden she's yanked out of her comfortable, familiar environment, which is very traumatic if you can't see, by the way, especially when you're a little kid. And put out on a farm where there would be sheep and dairy cows and ponies to ride and dogs and other children that she would have to find her feet with. So I'm thinking about it. I'm starting to do some research about it. And as usual, the dogs have come to me first, and I still need to find out more about the people, but that's the rough idea, the rough sketch of what I'm thinking.
Well, best of luck to both of you with your very intriguing projects. Now, the best thing that you can do for an author is to buy their book. And Lynn is putting links to both Four-Legged Farmhand and Reyna's book as well in the chat. And you'll be getting links to that tomorrow. And of course, you can find all this information at my website, flinthillspublishing.com, at farmdog.org, and at reynawrites.com. We're all over the internet. It's easy to find. So the second nicest thing that you can do for an author is to leave an honest review. You can leave that on Amazon, or you could email it to the authors or to me. We love to get those reviews, and they really are very important to helping an author establish a good platform and to promote their book. And tomorrow, like I mentioned, you will be getting a link to this recording of tonight. And again, don't be shy about sharing it. The link will last for 3 weeks. But in that time, we'd love for you to share it with your friends. Now, I do see we have some questions. Let me click on that, and we'll take a look at what you all are asking. Vicki Phillips has a question for Jackie. Jackie, would you ever consider coming to a school and sharing your story with students and teachers as a special author's day?
Well, yes, I would consider that at some point in time. We'll kind of see how the health concern is going at the time, but I'd love to come and spend some time in the classroom when I've got another dog that's ready to go. And I do know that person. She's my cousin. So thanks for asking that question, Vicki.
Yeah, I think that would be terrific. And I'd hope you'd bring a dog or two with you when you
Yes.
do it.
Yes, I sure would. That's what the kids want to see anyway.
Okay. Well, the Wildcats at King City Elementary want us to know that 31 people are watching. That is awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
All
you.
right. And that Deuce, who was a winner tonight, is a King City kiddo. And I think, oh, and Aries is too. So half of our winners were from King City. I love that. You saw, it was random. It was not staged. Okay. All right. Nikki wants to know, Jackie, what kind of jobs can dogs do around the farm?
Well, on the herding side with the border collies, they can help the farmers with their livestock needs and watching the gates so that if cattle come close to the gates and the farmers are in the lot feeding, the farmer will not get run over by the cattle because the dog is there guarding the gate for them. They can help sort the cattle off or lambs or whatever the case might be, give vaccinations and just help them in general. As a four-legged farmhand, they don't have to call their neighbor to help them. They don't have to call a friend to come and help because they can be more independent and just work there with the dog. On the other side of the program, the service skill side, mobility can be taught to the dogs, helping to brace a farmer if he's out in the field and falls and needs help up. And they drop gloves all the time. It seams or pliers, and the dog can be taught to get those things and bring them back to their owner. A variety of things. We look at each individual farmer and what their needs are, and then that's what we train for.
You know, Reyna, that reminds me of a story that you had of one of your dogs locating a missing pair of boots.
Yeah, would you like me to share that quick Dundee story?
It's a cool story.
That was Dundee, my Australian Shepherd, who I still have. My dogs are really good at finding things for me, but the amazing thing, you know, a lot of times, like you saw in my video, I'll tell them to get it. That's their command, to go find it and pick it up and bring it to me. The amazing thing about that story was that he did not know what I was looking for. This is one of those power of dog moments. I didn't make a big fuss about it. I was looking for my boots. All I wanted to do was go up to the hay shed and get a couple of bales of hay and bring them back to my barn. I couldn't find the dumb boots. And I mean, I was just walking around the house and I was like, okay, where did I leave them last time? I mean, I know I just had them, you know, a couple hours ago, and I didn't make a big deal about it. I didn't make a lot of noise. And I certainly didn't call the dogs in because I didn't really think it was necessary. And I was getting really frustrated. I couldn't find the things. And I'd been over the house like twice, and I'm looking in all the familiar corners and they're not there. And all of a sudden I hear this thud behind me. And I was like, what was that? Because the dogs aren't really supposed to have anything in their mouths, you know. And it was Dundee. He came up to me and he had my boot in his mouth and he just brought it right to me. And then he found the other one, and I still don't know where they were. And I don't know how he knew what I was looking for, but he figured it out. They are amazing. And that was without training. So think about all the awesome things that they do, like at Farm Dog, when they're actually channeled to, you know, to take that skill and to help somebody specifically. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Reyna, we have a question. What breed of dog do you think is easiest to train?
I have no idea. It truly depends on what you want to train for, and it depends on what kind of personality you find easiest to work with. It also depends, I mean, what kind of, you know, what do you want to train for competition? Do you want to train for detection work? Do you want to train for, you know, frisbee? Do you want a livestock dog? It's oftentimes, I mean, the easiest, like my first love is competition obedience. Okay, so I mean, I would say the traditional breeds would be something like golden retrievers do really well, Shelties, border collies, German shepherds, any kind of very athletic, very eager to please, very we call it drive. We like to see a dog with drive, a dog that has the initiative to go out and work, to figure something out, but to do it with your direction. You know, if you're talking about something like obedience or agility, something that requires the dog to work very closely with a handler and kind of almost read your mind, you want a dog that takes direction really well. However, if you're looking at something like barn hunt, or even maybe some of the tracking, you know, scent work, use your nose type of sports, maybe a dog that's a little more independent and free thinking and self-motivated would be a little bit easier to mold, you know, into those particular sports. So I don't mean to dodge the question, but it really depends on what you're wanting to work for and what you're willing to work with. Think about the energy level you're willing to work with, and living between training sessions, can you live with a border collie? You know, can you live with a high drive shepherd? Because dogs are a 24/7 commitment. So just think about a lot of stuff goes into picking a breed.
Thank you. That was a great answer. Jackie, there's a question. Someone would like to know, what other kinds of help do you need with your farm dog organization?
Well, how much time do you have?
Go for it, girl.
We, of course, are a 501c3 nonprofit, so funding is always a big need. But on occasion, we do need some puppy raisers that are willing to spend a year of their life actually to raise a puppy for us and socialize it. And then we get those dogs back after a year and we take them into the training program. And that's difficult for some people to do, but from time to time we need puppy raisers. We don't have any sponsors from any company. So a lot of times dog food, basic necessities, heart guard, wormer, that sort of thing. So all those needs that you need when raising a dog, we could use a lot of those things. If someone would have the urge or need to do that, we would appreciate it.
What's the best way to reach out to you about that, Jackie?
The best way is probably by email, and it's farmdog03@gmail.com. And of course, farm is spelled P.H.A.R.M. Or they can call 660-582-0694. Check out our website at farmdog.org, and there's a lot of multiple ways that you can get in contact with us. I'd be glad to visit with you.
Okay, terrific. Reyna, someone asked a question. They said, I noticed a black cat on the same obstacle course as your dog at the end of the video. Did you train the black kitty as well?
Oh my gosh. I did not need to. He has his own video. I believe is it on my YouTube channel, Thea?
It is.
Go to my YouTube channel and you can meet Bagheera. He is quite a guy. He can do healing, he can do go outs, he can do jumps, and he can do agility. And he does it all for food, of course. He is almost as good as the dogs. He can even jump into the ring and out of the ring and into a crate. He loves riding in the car. He is amazing. He regularly interrupts our training sessions, and he has to be put in a crate to get him out of the way, or he will completely steal the food and the show. No, I didn't train him. Yeah, I didn't need to. He just figured it out, and he's a character. Go check out his video. Seriously, ReynaWrites.com is the website. I believe you'll find all the links to the YouTube channel, and
That's right.
yeah, it's all there. The blog post. He has a blog post and everything. So
Okay. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions right now. I want to thank everyone who came tonight, spent time with these wonderful women. I hope that you will buy these books. They would make wonderful gifts for the holidays. Reyna, Jackie, it is such an honor and a pleasure to work with both of you. You lift my vibe. You are bringing great stuff into the world. I think you both have a lot of moxie. So thank you so much. And until we see you next time. So get busy writing, women.
all right, it's been fun, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you. Good night. Bye-bye.